I'm Maxine Fothergill from Amax Estates and Property Services in Gravesend. We specialise in sales, lettings and block management, and we're open for business. To find out more about us, please visit our website on www.amaxestates.com. Hello, I'm here today with Carl Langley, and Carl is a local businessman and he runs a business called PopUp Arcade. So, hello Carl.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us today. Got a few questions to ask you. Can you tell me about your business and what you do?
So my business is PopUp Arcade. So we run kids gaming events and parties. We operate all over the sort of southeast of London, and we run around 400 events a month. So it's a fairly chaotic time.
Like it, yeah, it sounds like a really busy business. So how long has the business been established, and when did it start?
So we're coming up to, I believe this is our 6th year now. So I think we were founded in sort of 2017. And sort of the origin story was, so I'd been in theatre, I was a kids theatre director, and I'd come to London to sort of do some of that work. And sort of between jobs, I took a job working for a company that was doing a sort of similar thing where they had these big gaming vans and they were doing gaming parties out of them. And then one day in a meeting, I probably had what was the only sort of truly original thought I've ever had, where I realized that you could do this without necessarily needing the van. What was important was the games and the experience of the kids playing together. You didn't need to kind of drive this massive Sprinter van and try and park it and do all of that. It was just about connecting the kids, bringing their favorite games along, and that's sort of where the business came out of. So
excellent, yeah, and that's certainly that kids love games, don't they? So that must be a really rewarding thing for you.
Yeah, just that. I mean, it kind of taps into this idea that I know when I was really young, we would have, for birthday parties or just any celebration, you'd have your friends over and you'd sit up all night playing video games with them, and then the video game technology just exploded. You got things like virtual reality. We were suddenly able to, with high-powered projectors, move 80-inch gaming screens around and have portable racing seats, and it was this idea of like you could actually go to an arcade, but you could bring all of that and set it up in someone's living room, or we've got these big inflatable tents and we can set this up in people's back gardens. So it's just that like experience I would have loved to have as a kid, as an avid gamer and still being really passionate about gaming.
Definitely,
and then we're like, how can we just deliver this now? How can we make these like truly incredible moments for kids?
No, it sounds absolutely fabulous, and you are so passionate about it as well. So what's your number one focus in the business?
So for us, it's always been around the quality of the experience we offer to the kids. So I think, especially in our space, in sort of the kids' birthday party market or kids' entertainment market, everyone's kind of trying to create something that they can then franchise off. So they're all very focused on their kind of business end game. And as a result, they spend very minimal effort on the actual experience for the kids. So our focus has always been what's going to make this party better. We have weekly meetings, even now, sort of, I think we've done just under 12,000 of these events so far. So even at this point, we're still saying, what's not working? What's working? Did we lose kids at these parties? Why at one of our parties did we have 3 of the kids decide to go out of the tent and play soccer? And what can we bring in to sort of expand this and just like have every kid engaged for every moment of the party?
You direct most of your day-to-day energy, because you seem so full and vivacious of life and energy. So where is that mostly directed?
So at the moment we've got sort of the team's grown a little bit. So I've got quite a few managers, office staff. I think we employ about 35 people. So I spend a lot of my time really talking to people and making sure we're focusing on the right things. I find in business it's really easy to be incredibly busy, to work incredibly hard and achieve nothing. Just because you're just not focused on the things that matter. So the question we ask at the beginning of every meeting, any project, anything we're doing is like, does this matter? Is this going to move the dial? Is this going to help us, reduce costs? Is it going to help us sell more parties? It can create a better experience. And if the answer is, actually, this isn't going to move the number, then we're like, why are we doing this? So a lot of my questions are just working with teams, making sure that what we focus on actually matters and will move the dial in some way. Otherwise, what's the point?
Absolutely right. Does your business give back to the community at all?
So this is something we're really excited about. So just before COVID, we launched what we call the PopUp Arcade Foundation. So that's a charitable endeavor, and what we do there is we bring the joy of gaming and connection to kids who really need it. So we've been fortunate enough to work with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, with James and the Giant Pledge. We've also worked with a couple of the local sort of children's wards, some of the cancer wards, some of the hospices for kids. And it's really anybody who has an organisation, anybody who has a charity where they feel that it's just kids who could, really use a break, they could really use some gaming. We have a form on our website, people come in, you can fill it out, and we're more than happy to run free of charge events for them. We also sort of sponsor a couple of other smaller charities. And that's become a really important focus of our business. We're not quite there yet, but we have the goal that we want each of our hosts to be able to run one of these events each week. At the moment, they probably run 1 or 2 a month, but we're looking to expand that because I think that's a core part of a business, having a soul, connecting to what you do and connecting to the people you can help the most.
That's lovely. It is so lovely to hear that and to hear that you're giving so much back to the community. So thank you for that. And what was your first job?
Mine. So my first job, weirdly enough, was with kids as well. I worked at a place called Oggie's Ice Creamery in Perth, Australia, as an ice cream server.
Really?
And I actually used to run the birthday parties that they would have at the things. This is me at 16, and kids would come and they had like make your own ice cream, make your own milkshake parties and stuff, and I used to run those. So I took a sort of weird route and ended up back where I started at 16.
So your passion's always been working with children, so in some
form
or another.
In an odd way, but yeah, I got that.
Yeah, oh, that's really interesting. So why do you think you have been so successful?
So I think there's a couple of things that have really helped us. So one is obviously just that focus on really listening to the customer and developing the best thing for them. So I think it's very easy for an entrepreneur to get an idea of what they want their product to be, and then not listening to the customer when we did it. When my first ever arcade I ran, I had this elaborate idea that we were going to do all these different types of gamings, and the kids could do singing and dancing games here, and the kids racing this, and this is like a true arcade experience that mirrored my experience. But kids now have moved on, and it wasn't about that. And in my first party, I realized actually they just want to all be able to play together in the same games, have these similar. It wasn't about necessarily discovering new games, just being able to play them with their friends all together. So that like adjusting to the customer at every time we started to grow, started to listen to the parents about what matters to them, and that's when we introduced our tents, because not every parent wants to have the party inside, and even though the tents sort of make the workload so much greater for us, that's what the customer wanted, and if we didn't listen to them, I don't think we would have got to where we are.
What's the size of the tents? I've got this vision in my mind, so
they can range, right? Because our experience is we run everything from a party for sort of 10 children to we can do things for 40, 50. So really? We've got I think the biggest event we ever did was a bar mitzvah for 300 children.
Wow.
So our tents can kind of adapt, but I think our typical one is about 6 by 3 meters.
Yes.
So it's sort of designed to kind of fit in a typical London backyard type thing.
Yeah. A really big one wouldn't work in most people's backyard.
Yeah, so we kind of, and again, that's just like adapting to the customer. You kind of got to figure out where do they live, what do they need, and make your product suit them.
Yes, yeah. And what was a mistake you made along the way, and what did you learn from the mistake that you made? So
we had a major problem. So we a couple of years ago we developed this secondary product, second offering. We were trying to sort of tap more into the girls' market, sort of especially it's changed now, but especially at the time, a lot of our parties were for boys. Luckily, gaming has advanced a lot, and I think we're still slightly boy favoured, but about 40% of what we do are girls' parties now as well. But at the time, we believed we needed a dedicated girls' product. So we created this thing called Print It, which was this wonderfully imaginative, it was this selfie design party where girls would give them iPads that take selfies and make all these designs, and we'd print them onto t-shirts and bags, and it was this wonderful experience. But it failed horribly because we could never get our acquisition costs down enough, because no one's searching for a selfie printed party. No one knew what it was. And what we learned about digital marketing is that whatever your product is, if you cannot explain it in a sentence, it doesn't exist. You cannot get someone's attention long enough to give them pictures and a big description about exactly what you do and why the kids would love it.
Yeah.
When they did run these parties, it was amazing, and we had great word of mouth, but for our industry, that's just too slow a growth, so we could never explain what it was. We tried to push the envelope too far, come up with something which was too far from what people knew and understood. So we just, in the end, we could never get the sort of mass. So
that's fun. Do you think you'll go back and try it in a different way?
Yeah, so we're trying to find ways to kind of connect this more to what people are looking at. So I mean, the great thing with our gaming parties were already established, but even with our tents, people could sort of get the idea. It's like, oh, it's like a bouncy castle, but it's full of games. Or they knew what an arcade was. So we're sort of looking at how what is the closest thing people understand, and then can we just push that envelope a little bit, give them a better version of that, kind of take them in a new direction, rather than just kind of starting out over here and saying, do this thing you've never heard of. But unfortunately, if it takes an interview and sort of 2 minutes of me talking to explain the concept, just not going to work in the modern world.
No, it's a real shame, isn't it? Because I can imagine that did go down really well.
They were
but
great.
As you say,
they were great fun. We did end up running about 200 of them, but like I say, we just couldn't get the message out enough.
What a shame. So what advice would you give to young people considering starting their own business?
I think the key one here is you have to start with what the market wants, not what you want. You see so many young entrepreneurs where they come up with this idea that they're really passionate about something, so they want to start a business doing something. And there's never this question, it's like, does anybody else want you to start a business doing something? You see this a lot in like the hospitality sector, where people are starting bars or they're trying to become event organizers and stuff because they like the lifestyle, they like this idea. But then you end up somebody opening the 15th vegan cafe in Soho, and it's just like either there's no market for it or the market is already saturated. So you have to start with the like, oh, I think there's something you can do there. We were already in a market we understood. We knew people wanted to do gaming parties, and we just realized that the current offerings weren't meeting a specific need for the people who didn't want to have a big gaming van parked outside their house. And we're able to kind of fulfill that need, rather than just going, oh, I'm passionate about games. I've always been passionate about games, but I didn't start a business in it until I saw something the market actually needed me to do.
No, really, it's do your research to be able to know what you're going to want to do. Make sure you do your research really well and then go for it.
Absolutely. Look, you got to know, it's this thing where I kind of think you have to run on a very low level and then a very high level. So once you're looking around, don't commit too hard. Jeff Bezos says this great thing about don't go through a door unless you know you can get back out of it. So you can run your little tests, you can invest small amounts of money, take your little bets, see if they're going to work. But then once you've seen something that's going to work, that's when you push. Once we got we called one of our units to be able to run a party in an arcade. Once we got our first arcade running and we were selling it out, that's when I was like, right, I can do this, I need to grow this. And that's when you're like, calling the family, it's like, I need to arrange some loans because I'm selling out on this thing. And that's how we were able to scale from 1 unit to 22 really quickly, because we knew we had it working. But to just head into that straight away because I believed in the product, I think would have been foolish. You need the market to tell you what you're doing is right. And then once you've got that, then you can go blazing.
Lovely, thank you. And thank you so much for your time today. You've certainly heard some really great advice, some really, really good ideas. So anyone who's thinking of starting a business, then certainly do your research first. Thank you.